A warm welcome, everyone, to our panel session today, covering topics including space, youth, sustainability, careers, and even the industrialization of space. I'm delighted to be here with our esteemed panelists, and let's jump right in. How should we be thinking, how should folks be thinking about career paths and what aspects beyond the classical exploration that was primarily government-led, starting decades ago?
I think this is an excellent questions, and this is the I think this is the main question that we were asking ourselves when I was working in the space agency. After the establishment, after helping establishing research centers in local universities, then the big question, what can we do to industrialize, the research, the investment that we are making, or the commercialization aspect, and that is it's a big question and required a clear roadmap, and it depends on the country where you live in. And for example, the UAE, our focus was mainly to establish an ecosystem that will help us to reach wherever we want to do, the industrialization. Now, as you said, the deep space exploration, I think it's not like small countries or startup, young startup should engage in that one, in that aspect, because it's a long term. But there are a lot of huge opportunities, in low Earth orbit observations, lower Earth orbit. For example, utilizing the small satellites, benefiting the humankind, for example, utilizing the satellite data and try to solve poverty, to solve some real problem. For example, there is an immediate things that we can do to industrialize, the space sector or the research that we do. Of course, there are a lot of big companies or even small companies exploring, getting into the deep space. But in terms of commercialization, I see, personally, there is an immediate need. There is a lot of potential, on low Earth orbit, technologies that will have an immediate, benefit for the humankind, and also for small startup companies can engage and to gain and the fruit or the benefit, within a very short term. The scope is very huge, because space is it's the gateway for all science and technology. So you name it, it could be in medical, it could be in AI, it could be in new technologies, in satellite. There are a lot of opportunities. But the main thing is really is as a government, maybe you need to focus on a few things that you can be niche in it, rather than scattered everywhere, and you have to work this with all your stakeholders. Mainly, I would say number one is the universities and research centers, because the youth are there, and you need to maximize their engagement in space technology. Otherwise, you will not be able to innovate in space, and you will not be able to have a very fruitful industrialization of whatever technology if you don't have the human resources in.
Thank you very much, Khaled. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much for laying some groundwork for us. So with this, Sahith, could you build on our discussion here in terms of how you are seeing, what needs you are seeing around innovation in space? Planning, execution, would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, absolutely. Firstly, I totally agree with what Dr. Khaled said regarding building the ecosystem, and where the companies from startups to emerging space companies who are moving towards LEO-based technologies. So when I look at a technology, for example, when you look at a company or a startup who is building an innovative hardware, you can say, for example. So what is actually lacking is, before building it, you need to have an idea about, okay, you just know the technical part of it, but what about is the industry really ready to take that? That's the question. And like the problem is, if there is no demand, what's the use of supplying with just generating the equipment. So that's one part of it, and the second part of it is that where the innovation is going. One of the main technologies, technologies where startups and emerging companies are really focusing now is towards space sustainability, I can say, where companies such as like EPFL Space Center or CENAR or European Space Agency, they were working on projects like Clear Space and just to deorbit the satellites from space instead of because the reason is once you send the satellites into space, and if you cannot bring it back, it's becoming space debris out there. So this is one of the main technologies where companies are focusing on innovative technology. We need to actually know that when to when to use the technology, and also when is the right time. So I think this is the right time because a lot of companies are launching their satellites. So this is the time for deorbiting companies as well, for coming into the market and showing their capabilities. So yeah, according to me, I think these are the 2 points I would say as of now. Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much, Sahith. Sharib, please, let's continue this innovation aspect. Would love to hear facets more on space health before going to Adan.
Sure. I mean, I think this is a very exciting time for, someone just going into college or, straight recent fresh graduates to look at the space, new space industry as a whole, or even space health, just to give some very specific things that we are encountering as we build space health research databases and platforms. There's, beyond the engineering, just the engineering, there's lots of other things that have to be considered, for which training and suitable training and opportunities await, young professionals. There's issues around the data that comes from, we are collecting data from different devices. So being able to have people who do data quality checks in terms of timestamp synchronization, you have, given that these are all, orbital flights, everything has to be synchronized at a standard time zone and standard timestamps. So data quality checks are an extremely important step in the process. What time zones are coming from different devices, then the data formats, how those formats have to be standardized so that we can ingest the data in the database. Another step is the de-identification process. How do we scrub the data so that we de-identify the astronauts and do that in an intelligent manner, especially because we're not having dozens of people fly yet. It's a handful of people. So there's a whole subset of opportunities that actually even college interns can be participated. They don't have to necessarily. The industry is, I feel, is now open that opportunities lie for even people who are still in college or just getting trained. And these are the different things where they can start contributing in a space health area. Data quality checks, data de-identification and scrubbing steps. Then beyond that, general basic software testing, making sure, all the data files and the data files are getting stored. All the data files can be extracted from the devices. Data files can be transmitted. You need to have excellent software testing. You don't have much tolerance for any failures when, especially given on a space mission. There are also opportunities for software engineers to, when I'm not talking about engineering, not just the backend database, but also exploring front-end technologies of how they can build interfaces so that the data collection can be made very streamlined for astronauts who are, floating in zero gravity. So how do you build, in fact, talking about interfaces, how do you leverage machine learning and computer vision to kind of build new kinds of interfaces that don't require you to touch or move a mouse or to touch a screen? How could you build some interfaces where you can interact from a distance? So there's a lot of opportunity here from a computer science, software engineering perspective, but also further beyond into testing, data quality, and many other things that are just emerging as we are doing these different missions. So I think it's an exciting time for young professionals to really open their mind, think of a vast horizon, and jump into the new space age.
Absolutely fantastic, Sharib. And as we're approaching the tail end here, quick follow-up for you.
Mm-hmm.
You highlighted a few aspects related to inclusion, almost related to accessibility technology. You mentioned college students, and indeed, it's fantastic. We have a intergenerational dialogue. On Earth, health inclusion is a major topic. Would be curious your thoughts on how we can make space more inclusive.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, it's a larger question, not just for space health, but if you just think about the industry itself, how can this industry become something that does not require government subsidies and government backed space agencies to be your primary customer? So as you folks know about the Inspiration 4 mission, it included 4 people. One of the persons is founder and CEO for NASDAQ or a New York Stock Exchange listed company. So they have the wherewithals to make these missions possible financially. But the model is that you take other people along with you on these missions. So in that way, that is the inclusion model. You're bringing in other people on this vast adventure. And I feel that if in the future, this might be the economic model where certain people can provide the financial backing to support such missions, and then bring in other people. And in the Inspiration 4, there was a healthcare healthcare professional. There was a doctor. There was a person from the aerospace industry. So different people were on the mission. So I feel that this kind of missions where diverse people are included is essentially an inclusive process. You're bringing in different kinds of people, and they are going on these space missions. And I feel that that's the economic model that can include, even sustain the industry. I hope this is going in the direction that you wanted to get a response, Armen. But I feel that in itself, the business model itself is supporting inclusion of other people till a point comes where a larger population base can afford to be in space for a weekend and come back. So
thank you very much, Sharib. Indeed, the crew mix of Inspiration 4 is fascinating and inspiring.
Yeah.
So Adan, to you, as we round out this question, innovation, sustainability, inclusion, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So I believe that, when you're innovating on the space field, is like most of the time you have I believe that you have to keep your feet on the ground, but fly your mind into the space. It's like because most of the time it's like there are also related with this part of the science and how to start to create in some way, because at the end it's like there are a lot of natural laws, or a lot of there are a lot of things that you have to keep in your mind, because at the end it's like you are innovating from the earth to the space. So you are not innovating in the space to the earth and the upside. So yeah, I believe that it's a huge opportunity for a lot of fields, as we have talked. Related with engineering, related with life science, with communications. There are a lot of opportunities, and all my partners have said before. It's like the automation and also this part of artificial intelligence is very important, because at the end it's like you are going to have there on the space alone. So there can occur a lot of things there without the help from the earth. So there are a lot of manners to how to have this optimization there. But yeah, at the end it's like when we are talking here on the earth related with inclusion and related with industry, is that yeah, also there are a lot of opportunities not only for innovate, but I believe that there are a lot of opportunities to collaborate, because sometimes there are different regions around the world that there are a lot of new ways to help the space, but at the end it's like the collaboration between government, between industry, and finally young people is essential. It's essential for this era, for the human cares for space, and is how to involve all these areas in order to achieve the next key points. I mean, because at the end it's like I believe that before the 2030 we are going to reach different. I don't know. Probably I am very sure that probably we are going to reach the moon again. We're going to reach Mars different ways. So we have less than 10 years. So on these 10 years, what we are going to do?
So Adan, with that, inspiring aspect, back to the moon, to Mars, we are at our last question. We will go reverse order here. Khaled, you'll be so kind to close for us. So Adan, what is the one piece of advice you would give to someone looking to have their career in space?
Yeah, I think that my advice is going to be that, yeah, for this space career is that you have to collaborate in a multicultural, multi-generational, and multidisciplinary way. Because at the end, this is the space. I mean, the space is like the life. You have to have a lot of different areas in order to achieve a big step, because each step that we are doing on the space is bigger than before. So you have to have this collaboration between all these aspects in order to reach the next main goal. I think that, yeah, in general, this is my step, that you have to collaborate in all the ways possible.
Thank you so much, Adan. Sharib, to you, what is the one bit of advice you would give to someone looking to have a space-related career?
That's a great question, and I think what Adan has said is excellent and point on. I'll add that given this is a very new era for space exploration, there's bound to be challenges. There's bound to be plans will not come through as planned. So one thing is to go into this knowing that this is for the long haul, and just have the patience to know that missions might get delayed and missions might get postponed, technical failures, financial issues, sometimes launches are delayed just for weather. So this is the long haul industry. And so if you now this is, I'm bringing in my a little bit of my background from India, when in the old format of the pure classic format of cricket, you had a 5-day game, which I believe nowhere in the world people play a game that lasts for 5 days. But I think if you were a cricket player who played those 5-day matches, you are a good candidate to think about space age, because you can have the patience to last for 5 days on a pitch. So this is, if you can have that patience, then I think this is a very exciting industry. And it's not just exciting both from professional, financial perspective, but just from a human species perspective, to be thinking that we are now going to have a home that could be potentially, a home that could be millions and millions of miles away. It's exciting. It's for several generations, it sets a vision that is so far beyond. So just have a little patience. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sharib. Long haul indeed. Sahith, please, one bit of advice.
Okay, I absolutely agree with Adan and Mr. Khan, what the points they have raised. But from my side, I would, when I look at from a youth perspective, from a young professional's perspective, I really see that one piece of advice would be, it's not just about your university education. That's just one part of it. The other part of it is what kind of professional network you make, then the question would be, how would you make that professional network? by participating in nonprofits. Like there are multiple nonprofits organizations across the world. What I believe would be like several creative ideas are born when you're an outsider and joining a nonprofit from a totally different industry and collaborating with experts who are working on it for years, who almost think in nearly the same way. So you need to come into the industry and bring a fresh perspective towards it. So disruption happens when the young people from the industry come in, they challenge the foundation of the industry and fundamentally rethink, redo and reimagine and recreate the world what you really would like to see. So it's mainly the challenging the industry from a new perspective without fear, because as we know, once upon a time, even if you would like to be into a bigger position, you need to be at 40, you need to be at 50. But if you see billionaires are becoming at the age of like 20, 25. So it's not about your age, it's not about your experience, it's about the passion, it's about how much contribution you can make towards the industry. And you need to, and the last point would be lifelong learning. It cannot be like, okay, you have a degree, it's not going to last for a long time. You need to, at least every few years, you need to learn about the industry, what's really happening in the industry, and adapt yourself to the disruptive market. I would say that.
Thank you, Sahith. Khaled, to you, one bit of advice and the final word for our panel.
Thank you. I think what we are going to face in the future, we need to understand the youth. They are moving into a new paradigm, what works before might not work in the future. Our education system, our way of attracting the youth into getting into space or getting into technology would be more difficult than before. Why? Because there are a lot of opportunities around them. Now, so there is a big responsibility on the education system from high school to universities, to educate the people how to become more entrepreneurship, which is the main drive. If you look at the UE next 50 years, the government is encouraging the youth, to go into entrepreneurship, which is not an easy task, So you need your education system, you need the stakeholders, to create some kind of cooperation, new programs to encourage people getting into a new business models, where attract people and getting fund or research and so on. So I think we will face a lot of challenge in the future attracting youth if we don't change our approach.
Thank you so much, Khaled. And with that, this concludes our panel today. Warm thank you to esteemed panelists, the organizers. We'll be signing off. Thank you.